Hey guys, so I'm probably going to be starting this really shortly. Just want to wait for everybody to kind of come in. Quick question. Did you have a recording last? Yeah, we did record last session. It's right now, if you go through kind of the ManyChat flows in order to kind of sign up for these, there'll be a link to get access to that. Let me see if I can get you that sign up flow link. Yeah. All right. So okay, so here it is here. So essentially, that's just you go through kind of our ManyChat flows, sign up, and then at the end of it, you'll get an email as well as kind of a message inside Messenger, giving you access to the past recordings, giving you access to kind of the beta template um, Google document where I just punch in all the templates that I've got that are kind of in more or less beta, is what I'm going to call it. But yeah, they're finalized and everything, so it's all good. Hey, Troy. Okay, so I think we're good to go. Got my camera looking not amazing, but not bad. Um, so let me share the screen here, and then we can kind of get started. So let's go like this. There we go. All right, you guys see my screen? Troy, do you see it?
Yep, looks good.
Awesome. Okay, so obviously I'm on the wrong slide here. Let's go to number 1. Okay, guys, so the kind of topic for this week is going to be sign-up flows. So essentially, these are just flows where you get customers to come in and they'll sign up via whatever kind of method you want. My method is OTN is kind of the main method they sign up through. Obviously, you can customize that to maybe be more focused on, say, phone numbers or emails, so on. And essentially, just the sign-up flow is just something that I've kind of, I've made a lot of different type of sign-up flows, and the flows you will have access to these sign-up flows kind of later down the line. Okay, so just to kind of get into the rules, it's pretty standard stuff. This is going to be around lasting about an hour long, roughly speaking. We're going to be covering that central topic, but you guys can, of course, ask questions about whatever you guys want. It doesn't necessarily need to be about the topic. Just like raise your hand inside the chat. There's a way to kind of raise your hand. I'll try to get to you guys throughout the presentation. And yeah, that's more or less it. I mean, I don't want to cover this too extensively. Like obviously, if we unmute you, you don't want to share credentials or information about, maybe with a brand or what you're selling, so on, just because these are recorded and so on. And there's a lot of participants involved. Okay, so before we get into kind of the main topic, do you guys have any questions? I see there's some here, so let's just, for some reason I always have a hard time pulling this up. Okay, so there you go, finally pulled up. Okay, so it looks like there are no questions. I'm just gonna give it a little bit of time. So if you guys do have kind of any questions, it doesn't necessarily need about sign-up flows. It could be about XYZ. And I'll be happy to answer that just so that way we can get those kind of out of the way. And then once we're done that, there will be another Q&A afterwards. I just want to have like some of the questions answered right off the bat, and then we'll dive into the main topic. And then after I'm kind of diving into it, I won't really be stopping too much until the end of the presentation. So if we have any questions, let me know. Doesn't look like
And
there
Tyler,
is.
just to hop in too real quick, and for some general housekeeping items in addition to what you've touched on, just to reinforce again, this is a training that is exclusive to Seller.Tools users. So if you know others in the community that are part of the user group, Feel free to share this training with them. We'd love to see them join us, attend, get their questions answered, and get some of these insights that Tyler shares now each week. And as Tyler mentioned, feel free to drop your questions in. And great to see some of those already starting to come in terms of the Q&A. This is meant as both a educational, but then also a support time exclusive to you guys. And the last thing I would mention is you will notice that we have set up a new sign-up flow that includes, it's a bit redundant, right? We're going over sign-up flows today, but we've created a ManyChat flow for sign-up for these weekly calls that includes, yes, registering, so you get access to this link and training, but also access to the prior recordings, which we have received such great feedback from you, which is great to see. But want to make sure if you want to refer back to those, to go back over them, share with your team, make sure everybody's up to speed on strategies, free flows. We've covered, I think, a good amount of stuff, even already in the handful of trainings. And we'll definitely continue that spirit as we move on to future and subsequent trainings.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually ended up pasting that a little bit before you joined, that link to that sign up flow that you just mentioned with the ManyChat account. So in regards to kind of WhatsApp, because I see a question here saying, will there be flows for WhatsApp? And I'm going to say yes to that. But right now, I don't see ManyChat being too far along in terms of like WhatsApp. I know it's been kind of in that beta zone, right? You could see it in the back end of ManyChat, but I just don't see that one coming up anytime soon. I know they mention stuff and it feels like it takes forever for it to actually become a thing. Like Instagram was mentioned almost like 2 years ago, or it was at least mentioned a year and a half ago. It's been a long time. So I don't know when WhatsApp is coming out, but when it does come out, I'm sure we'll make some templates for WhatsApp. But as of right now, I just don't see that coming out anytime soon. But maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. Anything else? That seems like that's the last of it. Okay, so I see something here. I don't see recordings, ManyChat flows platform, right?
And I did just drop that link back in again. And do let me know. Again, for those that do want to get access or re-register, make sure you have the link. This flow will take you through those steps. So, and any issues at all, definitely let us know.
So yeah, the one question here is just like, oh, is the recordings kind of in the back end of Seller.Tools? Right now, it's not. I will say that we're doing a lot of kind of updates. And I think that's kind of, I'm going to end it right there. So right now, there's just a lot of moving pieces. I'm sure maybe Troy can elaborate a little bit more because he knows quite a bit more than myself. But there's just a lot of moving pieces right now. So like at some point, I'm sure it most likely will be at the back end. I don't know when. Maybe that's something that Troy, you can elaborate on if you want.
Yeah, no, I think we do see that in the future being available. But Tyler is 100% spot on. We are doing a lot of things right now, many of which I think you guys will be excited to see. So, but yeah, we figured ManyChat flow would be a great way to deliver these replays, right? We've got to show off a little bit of what we both ManyChat and then how we're able to make it accessible and then keep it exclusive. Again, this is something we want to keep kind of an edge to those that join us, that take part, yeah, make sure that's what we're delivering on, is that advantage.
Yeah, my understanding, we plan on incorporating ManyChat a little bit more into kind of our side of things, and you guys might see some custom stuff coming out at some point. Not anytime soon, but at some point. I'll just leave it to that. So I don't think there's any other questions. So I think I'm going to dive in right now. And then if you guys do have questions and I wasn't able to get to it here, don't worry, there'll be some time at the end of the call to kind of go over whatever the question may be. It doesn't have to be at sign-up flows. Okay, so now let's get into it. So essentially, what are sign-up flows? I kind of mentioned a little bit this before, but what sign-up flows are is really kind of the point where you gather customers, right? So it can be coming from like a ref URL, come from, an email list or whatever it may be, right? So they're coming in from a traffic source, right? So the traffic source could be whatever it is. And essentially, it's just a way of getting users to give certain information about them, whether it be their email, their OTN, right? So they could sign up via OTN. They could be about getting their phone number, so on, right? Like you can even add additional certain things there if you really want, but really it's just capturing their information so that way you can then later on use that lead to run an internal giveaway, which internal giveaway was kind of the last presentation. That's like kind of the pillar of a lot of what I do. So I wanted to make sure I covered that before. So if you don't know exactly what internal giveaway is, I'd highly recommend kind of going through that sign up period or that sign up flow that we did mention a couple different times, and then watching the last recording, which was last week, because they go into a lot of detail into that. But in terms of just sign up flow, it's just getting somebody to come in, getting their information, and then maybe having like a footer flow to get them to do additional things. But mainly it's just signing them up to your giveaway program. And of course, that can be named whatever you want. I call it the Product Tester Club. I've been in a couple other different clients where they call it the VIP Club. You can be creative with your name. Okay, so the next thing is really understanding the messenger rules. So this is something that I see quite often just in the kind of seller community. And I don't particularly blame anyone because the rules are kind of always changing. And not only are you like Amazon sellers, you're also got to deal with Facebook side of things. There's just so many different rules and things you have to obey. And Facebook does change fairly periodically. So it's hard to keep up even for somebody doing it full time. But this is something very crucial to at least put a good amount of energy into, because if you're starting to build a list, the last thing you want to do is have the account banned, especially for something silly like using the wrong tag on a message, right? When you're inside Flow Builder, there are these different messenger tags. And if you use like say post purchase when you're not supposed to, it could throw off your account. So really understanding this, I got some resources right here to just kind of help you guys. This is from Kelly. She just kind of made a little video kind of going over all the different terms, all the rules. And it's just an elegant way of doing that. I can go over a little bit of it, but I think if you guys really want to understand the rules a little bit better here, I'm trying to post it in the chat. For some reason, Zoom does not like it when I click the chat button. It takes forever to load up or something. So I'll try to post that a little bit later here. But again, this is just messenger rules. It goes over kind of OTN, what that is, messenger tags, and so on. And then this is another additional resource, kind of the Facebook side of things, right? So understanding the different message tags. And essentially message tags, there's 4 of them. I'll just go over this really slightly. So there's 4 message tags, and these 4 message tags lets you interact with the users outside of the 24-hour rule. Now, what the 24-hour rule is you're able to message promotional content to that user within that 24-hour period of their last interaction, meaning the last time they've interacted with the page. And if they, let's say, outside of that 24-hour rule, you basically can't message them. Like, just think of it like this. If they're outside of that 24-hour rule, there's basically no way you can message them within Messenger. There are a few exceptions. An example would be OTN, which stands for one-time notification, and they have to sign up for that. We'll go into that one in a little bit more detail later. And then the other ones are these 4 tags here, which is post-purchase, event, reminder update, account update, and then there's another one which is like I think it's agent, human agent, I think is what it's called. Anyways, that one there is like something you'll never see really. But most of the time you never want to use these. You can use post-purchase inside your rebate flows right after, like, let's say the order's been shipped. That's falls within TOS because you're saying, hey, this order's been shipped. So that's good. But these other 2, you basically you can never really use. I know some people like, oh, I've used it in the past, but Facebook has really buckled down. I remember it was like a year ago. You can get away with using some of these tags, even if it was a little inappropriate compared. You could just get away with it because I guess they weren't policing it as much. But now I would say you don't even want to take the chance because there definitely have some type of algorithms in place that'll police what you're saying and kind of the message tag you're using. And if it doesn't fall in line with their TOS, they'll suspend you, ban you, put you on a 7-day suspension, so on. So really educate yourself on kind of the rules. So again, I would go through this video, maybe even read some of Facebook's kind of tags here. So let me try to post it again here. I don't know why. Okay, there you go. So I'll just go like this. I think it's because it's pulled up, but I need to, okay, there it is. So here you go, guys. I'm just gonna paste that inside the chat. If you guys want, you could take a look at that a little bit later, but I feel like a lot of you guys probably understand this, so I don't want to waste too much time on just the rules, but it's important to just touch on because, yeah. Okay, so the next thing is actually setting up the, sign up flows and incorporating that into your ManyChat account. So kind of similar to what I did with internal giveaways, I said, okay, I'm going to have three kind of main ingredients to have them set it up. And the three kind of main ingredients is enabling OTN. So unfortunately, if you're in the EU, this is not a possibility for you because for whatever reason, the EU, they decided, okay, we're not going to have this. They changed up the rules a lot. They say that they're going to re-enable it at some point, but when that'll be is in the air. So if you're in, the Europe side of things, you don't have OTN. Again, OTN just stands for one-time notification, and it's a way to bypass that 24-hour rule and interact with the users via Messenger and stay within TOS. So again, if you're in the EU, sorry, it's not going to work. It is what it is. The next thing you want to do is enabling SMS and email. This is something that's more optional, but I would definitely recommend it because then you have additional marketing marketing channels that you can contact the leads or their customers from. So something I would definitely advise doing. And then the last thing is actually setting up the flows and making it to kind of match your branding, your style, whatever it may be. And I do have some templates that you guys can, incorporate, use, and then you can modify to match again your branding and so on. So those are the kind of the three main things. And I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on every single three. Again, these most of this is probably something that you guys have seen, maybe not all of you. So again, some of this will be a little repetitive for some of you guys, but it is important to cover at least so everybody's on the same page. So the first thing we want to do is actually enabling OTN on the Facebook page. Now, again, there's a video and a ManyChat article, and I'm going to link back to those in case you guys don't know already how to do this. It's actually extremely simple. It's free, easy. Let me just try to send this to the chat again here. Okay, here you go. Essentially, this video is just a small video from Kelly. She goes into kind of enabling it. Again, this probably takes less than 5 minutes if you have the internet on and a Facebook tab open. And then the other one is just a ManyChat article going into kind of OTN, what it is, how to use it, so on. And how to use it within ManyChat, right? Like how to actually request an OTN topic and then how to use that later down the line. I'll be touching on that a little bit, but if you want extreme detail, you can go through that article and it'll tell you kind of step by step how to use it, what it is, and so on. Again, just to mention this one last time here, the EU does not have OTN. So if you're in the EU, or even if let's say you're in the EU, but you want to market to, let's say, the West side, like America, you're not going to be able to do that because you're in the EU. Therefore, it's going to interact with you just being there. So you have to get like some type of special account, like a VPN of sorts, to make sure that you're not associated with the EU at all. Like if you have just one person that's on your admin team that's in the EU rules are going to be applied to your entire account. So that throws you off just completely. Again, it kind of sucks because it almost punches everybody that's in the EU. So you almost want to make sure that anybody that is part of the Europe side is not going to. Am I lagging by any chance, Troy? It says I have bad internet connection.
Yeah, you just cut out there just for a second.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. So just to reiterate, like the EU is, again, if you have one person on your team that's in the EU, it'll disable OTN. So you want to try to make sure that whoever's on the EU side may not have access to the Facebook page. They can have access to the ManyChat account, and that'll be okay. But yeah, it's kind of a bummer that that's the way it is. Okay, so we're going to get into actually enabling it. And I just took some fairly simple screenshots here going over how to enable it. So once you're on the Facebook page, right, you're signed in as like the admin, you go into the settings. Then from there, you'll be greeted with this page. Then you go into advanced messaging. And then from here, you just kind of click, you scroll down slightly, I'd say middle of the page. Then you click request. In this screenshot right here, it was already requested. So you don't see the little button here, but it would be right around here. And from there, it'll then show this like green little check mark. And that means you've enabled OTN. It really is that simple. It's like this process could probably take me, a minute, maybe 2 minutes. But yeah, it doesn't take long, guys. And it's all free and there is no like reviewing process. It feels like it happens basically instantly. and the account gets approved right away. Again, this, if you're most likely in the EU, probably won't be that case. I've never actually tried, but um, yeah. So if you're in the proper channel, like if you're in Canada or the US or any other place other than Europe, then you'll be okay. So yeah. Okay, enabling SMS and email. Now, this is again something that's a little more, I want to say optional, but highly advised, because especially SMS, because people respond to this, and like if you send them a text message, chances are it's going to land straight on their phone. They're going to get it, they're going to receive it, and then if it's an offer then they're interested in, you're going to be able to kind of remarket to them. So here's a video again kind of going over how to enable this. I'm going to have some slides going over this, and this is something you guys most likely already know, but again, I just want to make sure I cover everything so that way everybody's kind of on the same page. So
And
enabling.
real quick, Tyler, I just want to touch on that just briefly, because SMS is very powerful because of the open rates and the follow through that you'll see from potential customers and customers. So definitely interested whether there's questions or there's feedback. It's something I would love to know from those that are with us. What your experience has been with SMS, because I think that also could be a potential topic to explore more. But it's really powerful.
For sure. Yep. And there are some kind of interesting developments that are most likely going to happen here. I know that ManyChat has like, so in terms of email, one thing I will say is that it does end up in the junk folder. At least that's been my experience. So one thing that I will say is like, that's why phone numbers are so much more potent, because it actually ends up, right there on their phone. They get the notification, they see what it is. With email, it tends to go in their junk folder, and nobody really checks their spam/junk folder. So it's a little hit or miss. You can have flows, which I do have, where it's like, hey, click the button on the, we send you an email, click this button. And that way, that we know that you got the email. So there is that you can do, and then you could tell them, hey, make sure it's not in the junk folder, and so on. So you could do that, but again, it does just for whatever reason end up in the junk folder, and I think that's, you can have integrations like Klaviyo or even Active Campaigns to just help you get into the, what do you call it, the inbox, right? So that way it's something they actually see, or at least more likely to see. Okay, so enabling this is actually really another simple task. It doesn't take long. It's more or less exactly like OTN. The only difference is you're going to be enabling this inside ManyChat. So when you're logged into your ManyChat account, you go into settings, and then from here you're going to see into channels. You're going to see SMS and email, and if you're enabling SMS, then you're going to want to click SMS. If you're enabling email, then you'll want to click email. So in terms of SMS, I just went into SMS first. When you click SMS, it's literally just a toggle on and off. And by default, it's off, but you can enabling this. Keep in mind that it does cost money to send out text messages. So your build kind of based on how many messages you're sending out and how long the messages is, how many emojis, how many characters you're using. So there is some form of like you're going to have to pay ManyChat a certain amount of money to do that. So just keep that in mind. Email is a little bit different. When you click the email kind of channel right here, you're then going to be asked to connect your business address. So you actually have to give your business address to ManyChat, right? So wherever your business is registered, and then that's essentially it in terms of connecting it with email. So those are kind of enabling those two platforms. It's very simple. Within ManyChat, click the settings, follow the kind of instructions. SMS is actually a little easier because you don't have to punch in any information. And then email, you just have to punch in your business address. Okay, guys, so right here, we're going to go into kind of the flows. So these are the 3 flows that I've kind of made, and it is going to be in the Google document that I've sent kind of last time. And I will give kind of that link at the end of the presentation to give access to these 3 flows. So I'm just going to talk about them a little bit here, and then throughout the presentation, I'm going to actually take one of them, not all 3, because I don't think I'll have time to do all 3, but I'll take one of them and actually show you guys how to edit it in live time. Now, these 2 are basically identical. This one right here is for a specific product. And this one here is to just sign up to the, rebate giveaway program, whatever you want to call it, right? So if you call it, I call it the product tester club, you want to call it the VIP club, or you want to call it the XYZ, then you can. But these two are very identical. In fact, if you download both of them, you'll see that like, oh, there's basically nothing different, or at least very little is different. This one right here is just a welcome message, and the welcome message is essentially hooked up to your ManyChat account. And when they click that kind of message now button inside the Facebook page, like once they're looking at your Facebook page, I think maybe I could scroll up here. So unfortunately, it just says this promote, but usually there's a button right around here that'll say message now. And when they click that button, it then interacts with your welcome message. And this welcome message is something extremely simple. It's literally one flow long, and it's just hey, thanks for showing interest in this and that. Would you like to join our product tester club? And then there's a button to then click that, and then it goes to the sign up flow. This flow right here is kind of incomplete without this one right over here. So just bear that in mind. And this one here, I would definitely advise, if you have additional things you want them to have access to, then you would make stuff like that for them. So like if you have like a rebate giveaway menu, or you have XYZ thing that they'd be interested in, like referring a friend or something like that, then you would add that inside your welcome message. This is just kind of a templatized version of it, but you can of course add on to it. And same with the others too. I would definitely say like they're really good templates, and I use them lots, but don't feel like, oh, this is how it is and I have to stay to this. Like there's more than one way to skin a cat. You could take a look at this and then edit it to match your goals / branding, so on. So I'm just going to show you kind of overview of the flows here. I didn't want to go like screenshot into screenshot on how to edit them, because it would be like, I don't know, 20 or 50 different screenshots. So it just didn't make sense to do that. So I figured, okay, I'll just do a live example of me editing it. So this is the first one, the product name rebate giveaway kind of flow. So as you can see, there's 8 flows, 1 growth tool. The majority of the flows you don't actually need to edit. There's only, I want to say, 3 flows that are something you probably want to take a look at and at least edit. The other ones are what I call utility flows, where it's just like a flow that's there that maybe captures their phone number or captures their email. And it's not something you necessarily need to edit, because the scripts are more or less the same. But of course, if you want to edit those to match your branding and so on, then by all means do that. And this is the other one, sign up like to rebate giveaway program. And this one here is just like, again, they're literally super identical. When you see them, you'll be like, okay, there's almost no difference, but there's just a couple key things that are a little different that I needed to make 2 different templates. But again,
just real quick, Tyler, too, now that you're touching on how to set these up, I don't know if you dropped the link in the chat just yet.
Yeah, sure.
And then do make sure when you do that, it's both the panelists and attendees. Want to make sure everybody has access to that.
Yep, it's all panelists and attendees.
And one thing that you're going to gloss over, but I'm not going to let you, is you've gotten in the habit, which is really awesome, I think, for everybody who's joining us, of handing out free flows essentially with every training. Mm-hmm. And what I would love is for those that are getting access, feel free, as you dive into, again, these are free flows that Tyler has built out. Bring any questions you have back to the training. And this, you can see how this definitely feeds into itself of how we devise and come up with, and Tyler, through the strategy and then the tactics and the flow itself, we can answer those questions. So they make the most of those free resources, and put them to great use. So I know Tyler's just like, oh yeah, I'm building flows, but it's pretty powerful when they're free and readily available. And then you can just dive right in and say, hey, this is, maybe I tweak this or customize it for this offer, for this client, or this use case, and make sure that they're optimal for you.
Sure. Yeah, 100%, guys. Like, although the flows are like free, and you don't have to do kind of anything to get access to them, really, they're extremely powerful. Like I use this a lot for some of the clients I work with, and like it yields quite a lot of results. And I'm not saying like I just take the flow and I do the bare minimum edits. There are some times where it's like, I want to do this and I want to do that, so I have to customize it for that. But more or less, like I install the template, I edit it to just match whatever product or whatever the goals are, and then that's about it. That's all I do with the templates. So they are extremely powerful in that regards. It saves you a lot of time anyways. And if you were to do it from scratch. Okay, so the next slide here is number 3, and this was just a welcome message. Again, something very, very simple. It's only one flow long. The big reason why I took kind of screenshots of this, just show you guys like these aren't huge flows. I know 8 flows might be a little bit more dramatic compared to just like, oh, the giveaway or the automation for rebate giveaways is only like 1 flow long, but 8 flows is just, they're cut up into smaller slices. So it's a little bit more readable and editable for the editors. So now we're getting into the section of like, I'm going to go in and edit one of these flows. Most likely going to be either this one or this one, because the welcome message I feel like is really, really simple. And I'll go give you guys a live example. So you guys get to pick which one you guys want me to do. Do you want me to do it for a specific product, or do you want me to do for like just the program itself? And then based on that, I'll literally go into ManyChat and I'll start editing it. And that most likely will only take me like 5 to 10 minutes, most likely. So if you guys want, you guys can kind of put this in the chat, what you guys would like to see. And I'll put that in there.
How do you want to name those, Tyler? Do you want to get 1 and 2?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
It's an easy shorthand for people to be able to vote. Maybe 1 is product name, 2 is sign up for.
Yep. Yeah, let's do that. So let's do 2. And then I'll put 3 here just in case if somebody wants to see this one, but I had my doubts. So, interact in the chat, just put like a 1 if you guys want me to see input, like install this one. And then I don't think I'll go through the install process. My plan was to just go from the template and then edit that one. Just because if I install, then I'm going to be showing all the different pages we have access to, and I can't blur that out. So yeah, but it'll be more or less the same. Like once you click this link, you get brought to a page, and it'll look like this here. Let me just zoom stuff. And then you would hit install, then you pick the page, then you can see what's merging, which in this case would not be that important anyways. And then you'd hit install for the final installation, and then I'll go to kind of the actual ManyChat account, and then how you would edit it from there. So let's see what we're getting.
And don't be shy. I'm seeing some votes coming in from Jocelyn, Emily, Ron. So definitely let us know. Do not be shy. And we want to encourage you guys to engage too. We've been talking about, Tyler and I have been brainstorming ideas of what kind of fun ways we can kind of, gamify this time. Is there ways that we can spend more time with you, more for your resources? Again, the flows are immensely powerful, but definitely engage with us. We're thinking that might be part of how we tie that in. So definitely let us know. So while we're waiting on those votes though, Tyler, why don't we maybe answer this question? Because I have thoughts on it, but something you can answer as well. From experience, do customers find SMS intrusive?
I'm going to say no. Most of the time, if you're doing it properly, no. You're probably going to have a fall off like everything else, but I would say not really, because you're offering them free products in most cases. Obviously, if you don't want to do rebate giveaways, then you could try to figure out another way to entice them to give your phone number. But in most cases, they don't. So I've had a very small fall off rate. The only times I ask for phone number is like 2 cases. I ask for phone number during the sign up flow. I've had some clients say, okay, I want them to be forced to give to give their email or phone number, which I don't particularly enjoy that method. But I've had some clients say that okay, that's what they want. In my sign up flows, I actually have it so it's an option. So they can give their phone number as an option. I'll go over it really shortly. And then the other way I get phone numbers is right as soon as they receive kind of that message that's, oh, we've confirmed that this order is real, right? Like through the order verification process. Then I say, hey, would you like to be notified via text message when we issue your rebate? And then, or when the order is shipped, right? You could say something like that. And then they'll usually say yes. And then that will lead to my sign up flow. And then from there, you get their phone number. And then inside your rebate flow, you then give them a notification via text message. And those are kind of the 2 ways I get phone numbers. So those 2 ways work really, really well.
Cool. Okay. I'd like to just briefly my thoughts on the SMS. And I think it is similar to how you treat it, Tyler, but I think of it sort of in 3 buckets of it's great to use as a gateway. So coming into flows, making sure that high confidence, we all have, phone numbers are what I consider a high confidence metric or variable linked to a person. I've had my phone number for a decade. there's very few things that are associated with me that have stuck around for a decade. You know, it's as close as you can get to just somebody's name sticking around. So the gateway in terms of somebody getting in the door is a big piece of the equation. Then value. So am I sending them, let's say, a gift card link? Am I sending them a link to an ebook? Something of explicit value is a great way to use SMS, because then it's not as intrusive. You're just sort of saying, if you want this thing of value, which hopefully those are the types of folks you're interacting with, it's a great way to use SMS. And then reminders. Reminders can be really soft, and they're also can be inherently not intrusive, because it's just something's already happened. So you've maybe triggered that review request. This is one of my favorite examples, is you triggered the review request in ManyChat that we send through Seller.Tools. So you guys probably know this in terms of the TOS compliant email, which we can do that automatically. And then we tie in a SMS right on the other side of it and say, hey, you know, Amazon has recently sent you a request for feedback, or we noticed Amazon sent you a request for feedback. Just want to make sure you saw that. And it's kind of a soft, non-intrusive way of taking the fact that most people, you know, I've got my phone at arm's reach right now, and we'll get that, see that, and we'll have interacted with you in such a way that it can serve as just a reminder, not a, you know, request to do anything and ask or anything like that.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. So do you want to go into the EU? So in terms of EU for kind of phone numbers, I do have a client that has gone into this, and like we've looked into using, I believe it's called MessageBird, and essentially what that'll let you do is kind of use this other software to let you kind of message them, like phone, like text message them. And unfortunately, it's not available for Italy and Spain. So like in the EU, they've got lots of different kind of countries all there. So it's really tough because the EU, they got a lot of different rules, just in terms of like OTN not being available, and then phone numbers is a little difficult as well. So for the EU, I would say look for other kind of platforms like MessageBird. I think there was another one, I forget the name of it now. And you can use those platforms to help you message your customers. But unfortunately, that does cost a little additional money. So it's tough. Like in the EU, man, I'll be really honest, it's really difficult to kind of run things because of all the different regulations and rules that are there. So you're dealing with just like another can of worms. But yeah, there is ways around it. It's just, I think the best way to go about is trying to get that email and then verifying that they've gotten the email and that it's not going to end up in their junk folder, and then using email because that's just at least a little bit more simple. But again, if you want to start doing text messages and so on, then look at places like MessageBird, and I forget the other one, but yeah.
Cool. Awesome. And I'll just tackle the other quick question from Jocelyn in terms of fake phone numbers. So it's a great question. Something we should have an update on here soon, both in feature and function. So hopefully an exciting update, because you're right. It's like taking the most powerful thing and then deflating it real fast, because you're like, oh, great, I've got a phone number and this opens up a new communication channel. And then come to find out it's linked to somebody who's trying to abuse the process. It kind of does two things, right? It kind of confirms and validates the person. And then it also, you know, opens that communication channel up for you as the seller, the marketer. So more news to come on that.
When can they see news? How about that? That's my question. When
probably
can
next next week. Probably
Okay.
next week.
That'll be really cool.
I have a few things that we're cooking on. We're cooking. We're working on it now, but want to make sure that we're ready, so
Nice.
that yeah, everybody be excited to see it.
Nice. Okay, perfect. That's awesome. I'm excited to see these change, you guys, because we've been going back and forth about it, and you'll see they're very, very exciting changes. Okay, so I think we've kind of caught up on all the questions. And I know we only have an X amount of time. So what I did here was I took the template, which this is the template right here. So when you do install it, you'll literally have like a folder exactly named more or less the exact same thing. What I would recommend you do is you would actually change the name of it to kind of match whatever rebate giveaway program you're having, and then would just, instead of 2.2 here, you would type in folder, right? Something like that. It's not something you need to do, but I just like to keep things very organized. And then I would usually throw this inside my core flows, because my core flows is just stuff where I put all the flows that aren't necessarily tied to rebates, but they help us situate it. Maybe they're the footer flows, maybe they're list management, so on. So this is kind of how I organize things. Again, you don't have to do it the exact same way I do it. So let's get into the actual editing process. So when you do install the template, you're going to see the 8 flows, right? And the ones with the little cog wheel here, these are ones that I would more or less say they're utility. Well, they're not really utility, but they're flows that you don't need to edit because they're fine the way they are. And what I mean by that is like they'll work and function perfectly without you even going inside Flow Builder and touching it at all, as long as you've enabled SMS and email, right? Because if those are disabled, then this isn't going to work well at all. And the way you can tell an account has enabled it right off the bat is if you see this little thing grayed out, like in this case, it's email. See how it's grayed out? That means it's not enabled on this account, which again, it is a thing. It's not enabled. But yeah, when it's lit up like this, that means it's enabled. So that means you're like, okay, I know that I should probably enable this. And again, we went over that a little bit previously. The things you do need to edit are these 3 flows right here. And how I know that right off the bat is because I put little astrometrics right at the start of the flow to say, okay, this is what I need to edit. I would recommend editing this one first. This is the first one. It's because it's got the little ref URL right here. So I know that that's the first one. So we click into it. We'll hit edit flow. And now all we have to do is we just have to follow the instructions. So the instructions here is actually, it says, make sure you've assigned a value to, and then this is a bot field. And by default, it should be this, right? So all you're basically doing is saying, okay, I need to assign a value. So what I'll do here, just to make my life a little easier, is I'll open up a new tab. I'll go into the settings. I'll go into fields, and I'll go into bot fields. And now to find the field here, seeing as if it's a little on a lengthier side of things, I'll just copy this. And I go Control F, Control V. And now it's going to, it's Product Tester Club. So if I wanted to name this something different to match my goals, like VIP Club or whatever it may be, I would change that right here. And all that's going to do is just change it globally, right? So it's going to change it right here, and it's going to change it further down along the lines, like in this flow as well. So that way you don't have to change it every single time. It's just like you change it once in the bot field and it changes it everywhere. But by default, it already has a value. So you don't necessarily need to go in this flow, but I would still recommend going in it, making sure that it has a value, right? So I know that this has a value. And that's essentially it. You can also edit this to kind of match your goals, right? So if you want to say, okay, this is only for US households, or this is only for Canadian households, or this is only for XYZ, you can change that. Again, you may want to edit this to match your goals and your rules and so on. So you can mention a couple different key points here. So if you wanted to say, hey, you can only enter in once, or you can only get 3 different offers and that's it, you'd want to mention that here. So again, this is something you'd want to edit. So I didn't actually edit anything here. I just made sure that things were edited properly in terms of like the bot field, and then you'd hit publish. So if you did make any changes, you'd hit publish and you go and you could continue forward. So what I would like for you guys to do afterwards, once you don't have to do this, but I usually delete the astrometrics to just signify, okay, I've done this, it's done. Now let's go into the next flow. So the next one would be kind of this OTN sign up. And again, if you're in the EU and you don't have OTN, this is where you would most likely want to either capture their email or even their phone number based on kind of where in the EU you are. Like if you're doing the UK, then Messenger, or I should say ManyChat, does have that phone number where you can actually capture people from the United Kingdom and then use that information to send them messages. Unfortunately, it doesn't interact with like Spain and Italy and all these other Europe places. So it kind of sucks. It's a little more limiting for the EU users. So the first thing we're going to do, we hit edit. And this is where you can, again, you can change the tag here if you wanted to in the settings. But one of the main things you're going to want to do is add in your list management flows. So remember how, if you weren't there in the previous call, but I called them doorway flows. This is a doorway flow where they come in and they would sign up. So when they sign up, you would actually want to go start a flow. And I'm hoping it's here. It should be. Okay, perfect. It's right here. We just go like that. and then we connect it like that. That way it's connected to our list management, and they'll be assigned a unique number when they sign up, right? When they click notify me, they'll get these tags, and then they'll get a unique identifier right there. The next thing it tells you to do is make sure that it has a value. Again, we've already done this, but it just lets you guys know, again, make sure you do that. And then the last thing you can do, and it's not necessarily needed, but you can add a footer flow. So you can say, you can add like a time delay, right? Like of, let's say, 3 hours or 2 hours or 1 hour, and then say, hey, we're always looking for more product testers. If you have anyone in mind, let us know. And then from there, there's like a little button that they can click, say, oh, refer a friend, and then they go through that flow. At some point, this will most likely be inside my free flows, but right now it's not. So that's just another development kind of in the something that you guys can think of later down the line. But what happens here is as soon as they, click notify me in OTN, it says, congratulations, you're now a part of, and then a product tester name, right? And then it says, in case we can't get a hold of you via Messenger, what other types of communication channels can we do? And right here, it gives them kind of 3 different options. They can either do text message, they can either do email, or both. So if they do, like, I should have maybe pulled up the stats at some point, but I would say 30% of people click, roughly 30%, I would say maybe 32, would click text message, and then around 34% click email, and then around the rest would click either this or nothing, right? So it's about 30% for each, and there might be like that 5% that don't engage with this message at all. So in terms of like them actually be willing to give you the information, they are very willing to just pass you that information. So that's just something to keep in mind. I don't actually force them to give that information. I let them know, like, hey, what other means? You can, of course, change this to match your goals. Like if you wanted to, you can say, okay, sign up via this, then sign up this, then do this, and then that's how they sign up. But in my case, I don't particularly force it. I give them the option to. And then we'll hit publish. And now this one's done. So I just delete the Astromerics. And now we're going to edit the final flow, which is more or less the rules. And again, this is not something you necessarily need to edit. It's something to keep in mind. So again, this is make sure you have a value in the bot field. I know I mentioned it like kind of already 3 times now, but it's just to make sure that gets done properly. And then here it is where that you can actually have preloaded questions that they may have about the rebate giveaway program. And some of them may include like, why do you do rebates? What do you give? Like, what are you giving away? What do I pay up front? And then the answers are just kind of preloaded right here. And of course, you can edit these answers to match your goals. Like one of them is, do I pay up front? And there's kind of 2 different answers. One of them is like, no, we'll give you the funds, up front. And this is for more prepay flows. I don't have any kind of public templates on that. And maybe that'll be something I put out in the future, but basically prepay is like you give them the money and then they purchase it. This works a little bit better with Instagram influencers than the alternative, which is like they buy it and then you give them the rebate after it's been shipped, just because you're trying to build a bit of trust there. But yeah, so normally it's, yes, they have to purchase it and then you issue the rebate later down the line once it's been shipped. And what do you give rebates? In this case, it's just kind of like a preloaded thing. It's like, oh, we give away a wide range of different products. We partner up with Amazon sellers, and then we're looking for honest feedback, right? And of course, you can change this to match your goals and so on. And you can even add additional questions if you'd really like to. And that's more or less why you would come in here and edit this flow. It's just to like change the scripts or even change some of the questions and add some additional messages if you really wanted to. And that's pretty much it. So as you saw, like I didn't actually really edit anything. I could if I really wanted to. And I think it's worth saying like, hey, make sure this matches your branding / goals. So that's why I put the Astromerics right there. So it's like something that people should look at. And that's it. I could go into a little bit of these ones here, but it's not absolutely necessary. But it's something fairly simple. It's like, okay, what's your phone number? Okay, just letting you know this page is going to be messaging you. Do you agree? They click agree, and then they get opted in. I'll zoom in a little bit here so you can see. So what's your phone number? Confirms their phone number. They agree. Once they click agree, they're then going to be opted in, and then they get this confirmation SMS. And then from here, it says, hey, we've just sent you an SMS. Can you make sure that it's actually connected to your phone? So it actually verifies that you've given them a phone number. So essentially, this is what the SMS would look like. They click a button, which is a link, and then they get brought straight back to Messenger. And it actually confirms the process right here. So you're actually able to confirm that they got the number and they click the little button. I know some other sellers, I've seen a couple flows like this where it's like they give them like a random number generated from like a spreadsheet or something. And then they say, oh, make sure you click the right number, or give us the right number. And that can work. I mean, it's more or less the same. It's just a different way to skin the cat kind of thing. I like to do it this way because it's a little bit more simpler. You don't have to deal with a Google integration. You just tell them, click this button. They click it. It removes one tag and it adds another tag, and then it thanks them for confirming their number. And I want to say the email side of things is more or less the exact same thing. It's just obviously asking for different information, right? Instead of asking for phone number, it's asking for their email, right? Same thing. Ask for the email, confirms the email, opts them in, sends them an email, tells them, can you confirm the email? And inside the, confirm email, it's more or less the same thing, but just in email format. They click a button, boom, it confirms the email. And that's essentially the sign up flow in a nutshell. So it's really simple to edit. As you saw, like I barely did anything. But of course, you most likely will want to edit this to match your goals.
Nice. Yeah. And it's really good how it ties into your list management flow and then takes
Yep.
them right to the next step in the process.
Yeah. So you actually just reminded me about something. So I remember I talked to a different seller. He may or may not be in this call, but essentially this is where, and at some point I will have a call, like a topic or one of the different weekly calls about this specific topic, which is paid messages. But this is the exact flow you want to send them to, right here. You would send them to kind of this sign up flow right here. And the welcome message actually gets linked into this as well, guys. So unfortunately, I don't think I have the time to go over the welcome message, but essentially the welcome message would be connected to this flow right here. And same with the paid messages. So example, if you had a mega audience or whatever, you have an audience that's above 1,000 or something like that, and you want to run an internal giveaway, but you don't have their OTN, you don't have their phone number, you don't have their email, and you want to re-engage with those users. What you do is you could make a paid message. And again, I can't go into a lot of detail on this. You make a paid message, and then you'd say, oh, we're about to run XYZ giveaway. Would you be interested? Or, hey, we're about to do XYZ. This flow wouldn't be the exact one. You'd actually want to be using this one right here. We ended up editing number 2. But again, they're so similar that it's almost not worth covering. But you then say, okay, you bring them to this flow. So like after the paid message, there's a button saying sign me up. And then the sign up me up just says lead to this flow, which would be this one right here. And then that signs them up and it captures their information. And then from that point on, you can then do an internal giveaway, which is what I talked about in the previous conversation, the previous call. Okay. So
Awesome.
the kind of, yeah, I'm almost done, and then we'll get to the questions. So just to conclude with, conclusion, this is coupled with internal giveaways. So if you haven't seen internal giveaways, this is all going to be, I don't want to say useless, but it won't be as effective. So you really want to understand what internal giveaways is. And I do have a link here that does go into kind of the replay, but I think we'd prefer you guys go through the kind of sign up flow. And then you'll have kind of that folder link as well from there, and you'll have all the access to all the different replays there. But essentially a sign up flow, again, the conclusion is just it brings in people, it captures their information, and then later on with that information, you can then send them to internal giveaways, or you can message them again, so on. The main thing that I would say that's really, really crucial is really understand the rules so you don't get suspended, because it is extremely painful to make these flows and gather this audience and make it so you're starting to build a real audience. And then next thing you know, Facebook comes down with a hammer and says, okay, you're now suspended. I've seen some sellers get suspended for very silly things like not understanding the different tag types, and so on. So definitely learn that, especially if you want to do this long term. It's worth taking the time to at least learn it ahead of time, so that way you don't get hit down the line and then lose your entire audience.
Yep, that's a great point. Very worthwhile watch too. I would definitely stress that as you're building a list. I think sometimes we almost treat ManyChat like PPC on Amazon, where it's just transactional. It's like once somebody goes through, it's like maybe we follow up with them, maybe we re-engage or submit another offer. But really, that's a missed opportunity because that's the problem with Amazon PPC is it's pure. It's so it's transactional to a fault, let alone the increasing rise in PPC cost to saturation, the ease with which you can set it up, and that's why everybody does it, and that's why nobody cuts through it. It's very problematic, and this is where relative to PPC, ManyChat really can be that good level up. Well, cool, awesome, Tyler, great stuff. Before we move to final Q&A, I'm going to drop a link in the chat, and again, if you guys can just share your whatever you'd like to share, feedback, thoughts. Thanks for Tyler again for these trainings. I just dropped a link where I shared it in FBA Kings, our Facebook group. If you're there, we'd love to have that. If you're not there, please do join us. It's another great community and place to get your feedback, your thoughts, your experience, and then again, that informs what we do for future training. So would love to see it. And then also your final questions. Anything else that we can answer here in the last 5 minutes? I see one that we'll make sure we'll tackle from Ron, but we'll encourage you to drop any others that we can get to today. So let me throw this your way, Tyler. Doesn't this sign up flow make use of the blacklists?
Unfortunately, not by default, but you can use the blacklist. So I actually do have kind of like my own like kind of Google spreadsheet blacklist. And of course you can tie this in with, the blacklist from Seller.Tools. And essentially what you would want to do is what I'll show you how we've kind of done it is you don't want to really exclude these people because then they could come back and, report your page and then you get dinged like that. So what I actually do is at the sign up flow right here, let's just pretend, okay, for a second, we'll just pretend like this is the blacklist flow, right? And essentially it would be a utility flow where they don't see it. They would interact with the flow and it would check to see if they're on the blacklist, right? So it would check the cross-reference their name, maybe their email, so on. Obviously in this case, you wouldn't have captured their email, but if maybe your ideal thing is to capture their email and then you check the blacklist, what you can do is you can make it so it's like, okay, after list management, right? Just pretend like this is the blacklist for a second, or at least the blacklist flow. You go here and then you say check condition, or actually maybe, okay, so let me redo this. So essentially what you do, so just keep in mind that this is the list management and this is the blacklist. So you say, go into list management or go into the blacklist, sorry about that. And then you say if blacklist is true, so blacklist is true, then what you're going to do is you're just going to send them straight to this message right over here. And essentially what that'll do is it won't give them a unique identifier. So you won't really be broadcasting to them at all. You could also say like down the line over here, let me just make this a little simpler. So like this, and then you would go like this. So if blacklist is true, wait, I don't know, like, where's my time delay? Here's the time delay, wait a day, and then unsubscribe them, right? And that way you're getting rid of those people that are undesirable and they don't even know that they're getting rid of, like that you're getting rid of them. And you kind of want to keep it that way because if you do tell them like, oh, you're not eligible, sorry, they could come back and kind of be vengeful and say like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna report this page and XYZ. So where's the I think it's opt out to Messenger here. Yeah, here it is. They changed it. It used to be unsubscribe. Now it's opt out. Anyway, so you would say opt out to, and I know I'm not making this look pretty at all. But yeah, so you can opt them out here. And if they aren't on the blacklist, then it brings them to the list management. So that way they do get a unique identifier there. So I'm hoping that made sense. I know I didn't go over like how to make the blacklist flow, but the blacklist flow would literally be 1 or 2 action blocks. It wouldn't be something crazy. It would be like this, and then it would go Seller.Tools. Then it would be, where is it? Check blacklist data. You use your API key. What are you checking? Like what kind of information you're checking from? So you would check maybe first name, right, full name. Then you can check email. Then you could check so on, right? You could check all this information that may be on your blacklist. And then you would just map out to the right bot field. So in our case was blacklist, right, like this. And this would be this flow right here. Like imagine this being the flow. It would just be one literally action block long. And the reasoning why you'd put it in just an individual flow by itself is because if you want to have other places inside your ManyChats kind of sequences to check the blacklist, instead of remaking this action block every single time, you just add in a utility flow right here. Just makes things a little easier on your side. So I'm hoping that answers that question quite well.
Yep. I think Ron said who asked the question said, got it. Perfect. So that's great to see. Cool. Well, you've got that pulled up. Let's see if we can tackle, again, any last second questions, shoot those through, but I'm going to throw you one of Ron's and I'm going to take the other one. He asks, how do you deal with people breaking flows by replying to messages instead of using the buttons?
So okay, so let me understand this a little bit better. So instead of replying to messages, they're using buttons. So they're constantly clicking the buttons, like they scroll up and then they click the button. Is that the question? Or
I believe so. Other way around.
Other way around. So they're using replies instead of buttons, and they can't okay, so you have a quick reply and then they decide to type to you and then the quick reply disappears. And then because it disappeared, they can no longer go through and participate. I think that I believe that's the question.
I think this is one that a lot of people have experience with. I'm seeing a handful of responses here. Yeah, but that is the case.
Okay.
They're using replies instead of the buttons, and as MJ points out, they're just not following instructions.
Yeah. So I like to use buttons a lot. I don't particularly enjoy quick replies that often. I know that inside our rebate automation, we do have a quick reply like, oh, is it time to get the rebate? And we have that reply like, yep, it's time. So what you can do is you could have a place where it's like, so let me show you an example here. So you could do actually a user input. And if they don't use the right user input, like instead of doing just like a straight up quick reply after this little field right here, you can do user input and then you can tell them like, oh, type in this. And then if they don't type in the right user input, then it'll say, oh, sorry, we didn't understand. Can you please type in this? So that's one way of doing it. It won't populate the little quick response right off the bat, but that's one way of making sure that they answer properly, right? So what you would do is like, okay, so say type in, get started, right? Get started. And then if they don't type in get started, right? So you go condition, and then whatever the bot or custom field that it's being saved onto. So we'll just do Amazon ID as an example here for obvious reasons. And then we just go here. And then if this doesn't equal or doesn't contain get started, then it will go down, get started like that. If it doesn't do that, then what's going to happen is they get another message saying, sorry, we didn't understand that, right? So sorry message, right? And then it'll ask them for the quick reply again, and then it'll go back into this kind of condition. And then once they actually answer the proper response, then they go through the next place. And that's one way of doing it. Obviously, it won't populate the quick reply right off the bat, but at least it'll give them that, so they have to interact with the bot and type in a certain response. That's one way around it. Again, I prefer doing buttons and then just having what I call a check valve, which is just a kind of fancy term to say like they can only go in one way and they can't come back. So what that looks like is just like a button. And then within this button, it goes to a condition. And then after the condition, I know I'm getting a little dramatic here, but then it goes into giving them that tag. So action, and then this one was audience, something like this. And this is what a check valve looks like. If they click the button, it says, okay, is this the tag? Or actually, so wait a second, I just gotta go like this. Okay, sorry about that. So, and if they don't have this, then it's like, if they have the tag and it's like, sorry button, this is another sorry message, sorry message.
I think what's important too with this is that you just use this selectively. You don't have to do this through every single step in your flow. But also too, if you see that drop off, you see this disparity in the percentage, it's a great opportunity to do, what did you call it, Tyler? A check valve?
Yeah, I call it a check valve because it's just like a past trade I used to be, and it's the way to make sure water or hydraulic fluid would go one way and it couldn't come back. And this is
Right.
essentially saying that users can go one way, but they can't come back. So like example, if this button was tied to, let's say, the rebate giveaway, it's like, oh, claim rebate now. And they keep clicking the button, then obviously that poses quite a big problem, because then they can get like issue like, a bunch of different rebates. But this
Right.
makes sure that they can only do it one time, because once they go through it, they can't go back because they'll have this tag. So
Right.
hoping that made sense.
Awesome. All right, let me tackle the last question here from Ron. It's a good one. Any plans to implement a global blacklist? Building our own is working out pretty expensive. So the short answer is yes, and the semi-long answer is to tie it back to what Jocelyn was asking about. We want to be able to think about a black or deny list, let's say, and sort of go the other end of the spectrum. What if we could focus on just quality customers,
Mhm.
and know who they are, and direct our offers to those customers? And that is what we're aiming to tackle. And so definitely global blacklist is on radar in the pipeline, but we're excited about kind of flipping that on its head and saying, how do we know who a good customer is, and how do we strategically approach our offers, promotions, rebates, you name it.
Mhm.
It has some pretty big implications, so we're very excited. That's why that's why it takes a little bit of time, but that's also why we're excited to be unveiling that too.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, you explained it, but I don't think basically that we're going to have additional filters, right? It's like instead of just a blacklist to stop bad actors, we're going to
Don't share talents.
we'll have some cool stuff coming out. Okay, how
Yes,
about that?
yes, yes, yes. But again, it takes a lot of work, because that's that's the price of innovation. This isn't just same old stuff. We really are, as sellers ourselves. It's what's the $1 million question? How can we know not just low quality or abusers? Let's put them all in that same category. What's the other end, and how do we focus on them, and then be able to give you sellers the visibility of what that um, rating could be. So. All right.
You're such a politician.
All right. I said that was the last question. That we probably should wrap it up, Tyler. I think you did an awesome job. Appreciate you again breaking everything down. So,
I just want
and
to
great to
mention
see everybody again.
I just want to mention one last thing, and then we'll
Sure.
kind of end the call. So for any kind of seller that's looking to kind of do this, and they might not be super ManyChat illiterate, right? They might understand it, and they're just like, I don't really want to deal with that side of the business. What I'd highly advise is actually going into kind of the experts. We actually have kind of all the different experts that are available with Seller.Tools, so they know the platform and they know ManyChat really well. And you can obviously hire them. And of course, it's a really, really good resource because it just connects you guys with experts that are in the field. So that way they can help you guys out, even if it's just something as simple as like auditing your bot or something like that. Obviously, there are different experts that are, specialized in certain areas, whether it be like Facebook ads or ManyChat rebate giveaways or XYZ, right? So in this kind of expert community, you'll see quite a few different members there. And I would definitely advise going to them in terms of like finding somebody that can maybe help you, level up your ManyChat game and maybe implement some of the flows you have ideas for, but you just don't know necessarily how to build it yourself. So definitely recommend it to do that.
Great stuff.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. Last reminder, please do drop the link again in the chat. Just let Tyler know. Again, I really appreciate, and hopefully you do as well. Him spending the time breaking this down, getting some questions answered. But I think that will wrap it up for today's training session. Support, great. Again, seeing everyone. Everyone's pretty shy, but hey, that's okay. We're gonna keep warming it up and getting more of your questions answered. But really enjoyed kicking off today's training and seeing what you put together, Tyler.
Yeah, thanks. I know I said that was the last thing, but I just gave the access to the Google document here, and the flows that you're looking for, like those new sign-up flows, are actually at the bottom, right? So I put them all kind of down below. You have the welcome message, you have the 2 sign-up flows, so you guys could take a look at that, download them, again, free, and then just edit it to your heart's content. And again, if you want to completely gut it and use something, in your case better, then by all means do that. So that's it.
Great. Excellent. Thanks so
Okay.
much, everyone. Great
Yep.
seeing you all. And hopefully we'll see you next week.
Yep. Sounds good. Peace, guys.